we're back. And I know we promised that Mr. Hill would talk about how the orange bird came to make his home at the Walt Disney World Resort in Central Florida. But before we do that, I thought we'd first touch on another piece of bird related merch, and that is Chuby, which I just got an education about the name. Chuby popcorn bucket that is available for sale out in Anaheim at Disneyland Park starting on March 19th.
And for those of you who don't know who Chuby is, he's that cute little fat songbird who plays a supporting role in Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway.
Yeah, Chuby, not chubby, right? Like I always said chubby.
Well, but here's the thing. Okay, Chuby, like myself, is a little on the plump side, and to hear Kevin Rafferty talk.
And that is who?
I'm sorry. Kevin is the veteran Imagineer who designed Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. Anyway, to hear Mr. Rafferty tell the story, this cute little songbird was deliberately designed to be chubby, and for a time that really was this character's name, Chirpy Chubby. But then they go to make a list of the various scenes that they have to do animation for, and the scenes that they have to build figures for, and somewhere along the line the character listing, there was a misspelling, and so there was a typo, and so where it should have said chubby, it said Chuby. And Kevin's looking at this list, and he goes, Chuby is actually a more endearing, more memorable name than Chubby, so Chuby stuck.
And FYI, there's a reason that this bird shaped popcorn bucket is going on sale on March 19th. And that is because this is the 1 year anniversary of the grand reopening of Mickey's Toontown at Disneyland Park. Prior to that, this part of the park had spent a year or more behind construction fences being reimagined.
And just a reminder, over on Patreon, you'll find the two-part Disney Unpacked where Jim Shule then walks us through how Mickey's birthday land in Orlando eventually led to the creation of the original version of Mickey's Toontown out in California.
And Mr. Scholl, he was the lead designer on the original Toontown project, right?
Indeed, he was. And Jim shared all sorts of great stories with us about the development of what was originally supposed to be called Mickey Land, by the way. And for example, one of the stories that Mr. Schul shares is how once upon a time, Mickey's next door neighbor wasn't Roger Rabbit, it was actually Winnie the Pooh.
Right. And Jim, for those of you who missed it, you can catch that full episode over on patreon.com/Jim Hill Media or check out the abbreviated version on Disney Unpacked YouTube channel. And since we were just talking up the Mickey's Toontown that's out in Anaheim, I'd like to now mention something else Californian that's really quite unique. And that is the Madly Mischievous line by senior character art manager Lewis Whitman, which is like honestly anything, it's unlike anything I've ever seen coming out of the Disney parks before.
Can you please describe some of the zany items that Lewis designed? Because there's one in here that me personally, I especially love.
Yeah, of course. So I saw these in person and I started taking pictures. I'm like, oh, I have to show this to Jim. This is just too great. And so we were down at the parks and they were like, they kept popping up at a lot of the different stores that we were going into. So some of the standouts were we've got Chip and Dale as garden gnomes. Chip has a big white fluffy beard and it looks like Dale is fishing. And then you have to see the Hercules Madly Mischievous bust statue. It features the Olympian demigod as a classically sculpted bust on a Greek pedestal. But thanks to Hades' henchmen, Pain and Panic, it's been vandalized, giving Hercules a madly mischievous makeover. And Jim, this thing is $79.99. There is a buyer for everything because when I was looking at this online, it was actually sold out on Shop Disney, which was incredible to me. And there was one item that I just have to ask you about because it really left me scratching my head. Who in the world is this purple witch with sprouts coming out of her head? If you were listening to this as a podcast, please go over to Jim Home Media on YouTube so that you can see this witch with sprouts coming out of her head. Who is this?
Okay, now come on. You're kidding me. You don't know who the magnificent, marvelous Mad Madam Mim is?
Oh.
From Sword in the Stone, that's the feature length animated film that Disney released back in December of '63. Now, mind you, when that film, uh, well, look, it went out into theaters just a month after President Kennedy was assassinated, and so yeah, all right, it debuted under a cloud, and it never quite connected with audiences the way that Walt hoped it would. But then again, Sword in the Stone has the Wizards battle. You want to see this scene, folks? You go over to Disney Plus. And Sword in the Stone's relatively short film. It's an hour and 20 minutes in, and literally at the 1 hour mark, Mad Madam Mim enters the movie. She's only in it for 10 minutes, but it's so hugely entertaining because what happens is that in this part of the movie, Merlin the magician and Mad Madam Mim square off, and well, they do battle by changing themselves into all sorts of different animals. And Lauren, I will tell you, I have had modern animation masters, people like John Lasseter, Glenn Keane, Andreas Deja, who have flat out told me it was this scene in this specific movie, the one with Mad Madam Mim, the Wizards battle, that made them decide that that's what they wanted to do when they grew up, that they wanted to become an animator at Disney and tackle a truly crazy, over the top scene just like this. And by the way, Disney Sword of the Stone was the very first movie I ever saw in a theater when I was a kid. I was 4, and just like John and Glenn and Andreas, I was dazzled by the Wizard battle, which is why as soon as we finish off here, I'm going to Shop Disney and I'm getting myself a planner because again, Mad Madam Mim, there's finally Mad Madam Mim merch.
Well, Jim, like, I don't know if I should feel like there are people that are with me or if I'm going to get like some virtual tomatoes thrown at me, but I will have to check it out. And I know that Lewis Whitman's Madly Mischievous line features things like a really cute Stitch bell jar light and a Cheshire Cat trinket holder. Like, you really, really need to check this stuff out. Like, it's really cool. They do have a limited selection on Shop Disney and a more extended line, I believe, in the theme parks.
Cool, cool. Like I said, I'll head there as soon as we're done here.
All right. So, as you promised, a while back, Mr. Hill was going to talk about Orange Bird and how this citrus shaped creature wound up in the Disney theme park. So, enlighten us, Jim.
Okay, so in order to do this properly, I have to share a story from the June 1971 edition of the Walt Disney World Construction News. Now, Lauren, this was a newsletter that was distributed monthly to the 5,000 men and women who were working on site to change that 40 square miles of swampland in Central Florida into a vacation wonderland. Now, the idea behind this newsletter is Disney corporate, the guys back in Burbank thought that, if the construction workers are emotionally invested in Project Florida, they might work harder, and which might then ensure that Walt Disney World would actually meet its previously announced October 71 opening day. So,
So, the construction newsletter was originally published June of 71. So, we're 4 months out from opening at this point.
we are. And so, okay, here we go. This is our grabber of a headline. Walt Disney World provides unique showcase for industry.
Ugh. Okay, like let's just get to the part about Orangebird.
All right, hang in there. There's a kind of a lengthy runway, but this story does pay off. Okay, I promise you. Okay, article goes on to say that more than a vacation and entertainment center, Walt Disney World will also be a major showcase for American business and industry. Many of the nation's most respected corporations, whose brand names are household words throughout the nation, will provide extra enjoyment for the millions of guests by sponsoring attractions and services.
Okay, so if I was a construction worker at Walt Disney World, I would have stopped reading about like 3 minutes ago.
I understand. Okay, we're almost at the good part. Hang in there. Okay. Article goes on to say it is expected that between 20 to 25 major American companies will be participants in the Vacation Kingdom. Members of the Walt Disney World team will include Borden, Coca Cola, Eastern Airlines, Florida Citrus Growers, Frito Lay, GAF, Gulf Oil, Hallmark, Calcan Foods, Monsanto, Oscar Mayer, Pepsi Cola, Smuckers, Welch's, and others to be announced later.
You said there was a good part. When are we getting there?
Okay, almost there, almost there. Okay, now here we go. Participating companies use their association with Disney plus the creative and imaginative Disney talents to assist in marketing and promotion of the company name, their products and services. So here we go, Lauren. One of the first to sign a contract to participate in Walt Disney World was the Florida Citrus Growers, who have a major attraction in the Magic Kingdom theme park, the Sunshine Pavilion. Similar to the Enchanted Tiki Room at Disneyland, it will present a musical luau starring the enchanted birds of the Sunshine State. There will be a unique Sunshine Tree terraced refreshment location in conjunction with the attraction, and Florida citrus fruits and juices will be served throughout the Magic Kingdom. Now, as a reward for being the first to sign up in Project Florida, the Imagineers have designed a brand new character, Orange Bird. And Orangebird is an example of a joint marketing effort between Walt Disney World and industrial participants. And the Orangebird was created by Wen Enterprises for the Florida citrus growers to use in promotional campaigns.
Okay, so wait a minute, like back the truck up. Are you
Mhm.
saying that Orangebird only exists today? This beloved figure at the park, this character that is celebrated in all sorts of merch because Florida citrus growers were the first to sign up to be a part of the Disney World project.
Hey, that's what it says in the July 71 edition of the Walt Disney World Construction News. So, who are you going to trust?
But what if, let's just say, the Citrus Florida Septic Pumping Association had beaten the citrus growers to the punch?
I don't know. But that probably would have been one walk around character for the park that I think anyway you probably wouldn't want to have your picture taken with, or maybe get a hug from.
Or be anywhere around in the Florida heat? Yuck! Enough, Mr. Hill. Let's go.
There we go. Okay, I stand corrected.
Okay, and on that odorous note, maybe, we'll come to a close of another edition of I Want That Too. But before we sign off, let's give our listeners a little sneak peek into what's coming up in our next show.
Oh, absolutely. On our next episode of I Want That Too, we'll be diving into the fascinating history of how tiki merch became such a fan favorite at the Disney parks.
Oh, yeah, I love the little tiki guys. And I am absolutely certain we have a stash of them too next to our little garbage can ornaments somewhere in our house. It is going to be such a fun topic to explore. I can't wait. And speaking of fun content, what else are you guys cooking up over at the Jim Hill Media Network?
Well, Brian Gunn and I will be recording a brand new episode of Looking at Lucasfilm some point later this week. Likewise, Jim Schul and I are already at work on season 2 of Disney Unpacked. In fact, we're doing way too much research on Dumbo right now, but Speaking of Disney Unpacked, next month's suite of shows will celebrate Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger spin and all of the many variations of that ride through shooter that you can find at Disney parks around the world.
And you forgot to mention the show that we just recorded, which is super cool. You are not going to want to miss next Sunday, I believe. Picture This drops.
Oh God,
And
you're right. Yep, my
yeah,
mistake.
and
Hmm.
Picture This is a new show. It's a new video show that Jim Hill and I are doing with Jim Scholl, where he walks us through some photos that are from his personal collection or that he's had access
Hmm.
to. And these photos, you will never see them in the same way again once he explains what you're looking at. I mean, this show that we just recorded is all about concept art and Discovery Mountain. Like, it's really cool. You don't want to miss it. That's also over on Patreon. And,
Very true.
can't forget, we do want to hear from our listeners or viewers if you're watching us on YouTube. Like I said before, do you have any interesting Disney collections or stories to share? We want to hear from you. You can find me at laurenhersey.com, or you can find Jim at jimhillmedia.com, and send us a message. Find us on social media. We want to hear from you.
That we do. Okay, folks, that's going to do it for today. So, for the lovely Lauren here, Hersey, this is Jim Hill, and thanks for listening to I Want That Too.